Hello and welcome to this episode of Compensation Insider. Today, I'd like to talk about the different types of jobs or careers that one person can have in compensation and benefits. I think there are two main types of categories for HR people to move into compensation and benefits. The first one is if you're thinking to eventually become an HR director at some point in your career, I would definitely recommend that you do take at least one assignment in compensation and benefits, or total rewards, or performance and reward, doesn't really matter how it's called in your organization. That's going to be one way for you to establish the skills that you need in order to be credible with respect to conversation with the CFO and the CEO, because the Component team tends to be one which is deeply ingrained into understanding the business, if only because we have to understand, KPIs and measures for success when we are looking into either performance management, if it's part of our remit, or if we're looking at designing incentives for specific parts of the population or even for executives. So in order to be a fully well-rounded HR director, a stop in Comp and Ben would be one of the value-adding elements in a career progression, I would say. Just like you wouldn't imagine to probably do your whole career for 10 or 15 years in recruitment only and then become an HR director. You would want to do a little bit of training, a little bit of career management, maybe a little bit of employee relations, other aspects you would want to stop into compensation and benefits as well. Now, there is another way to consider compensation and benefits, and that's to become fully immersed in the culture of compensation and benefits and make that a specialization for a good portion of your career. So eventually that's what I did. I've spent 28 years of my life as a compensation and benefits professional. And obviously never looked back, otherwise I would have changed a long time ago. And within careers of compensation and benefits, there are two main aspects to it. There are what I would say the Comp and Ben generalists and the Comp and Ben specialists. So the Comp and Ben generalists are people who look after compensation and benefits, generally speaking, either for a business unit or across a set of countries or a region. And they touch on everything. They do some benefits management, they do some incentive design, they do some strategy for Comp and Ben, they help set up in new countries and so on. Compensation specialists, on the other end, are people who specialize even more within that. And those are the kind of positions that you will see in very, very large organizations that are quite complex and truly multinationals. So, for example, in my own career, in Microsoft, for example, we had compensation generalists that were at the country level or at the regional level, and we were supported by a set of hyper specialized experts. So we had a team in corporate that was specialized in international benefits, and within that they were ladies. Some of the ladies were specializing in, let's say, Latin America, another one was specialized in EMEA, another one was specialized in Asia, for example. We had specialists that were working solely on merger and acquisition, so pre and post merger acquisition and integration. We had some people who were hyper specialized in designing new systems and new processes for global projects, such as, for example, a revamp of the global mobility policy, and of course, global mobility experts. We had people who were looking at specific projects when we were redesigning how we would do salary reviews and approach governance between the different levels of autonomy that were allowed inside the organization at the country level and so on for implementing things such as new benefits or specific retention schemes and so on. So as you can see, there are very different levels and layers of complexity in the different types of jobs. Personally, obviously, I fell into Comp and Ben. I always say without knowing. At the time that I started working in it, it was not taught 28 years ago as in business school when you were specializing in human resources. I started working in it, and then of course it became super interesting to me, and I never left. And only a few years later I had my first compensation and benefits manager title, and I was like, oh, that actually describes very well what I've been doing these past few years. And I never left that field, but I always remained a compensation generalist. I had an opportunity at one point in my career to become a compensation specialist. I was at the time a Comp and Ben director for what we called international at my organization, which meant the whole world except North America. And I had an opportunity to become the head of global sales incentive plan design for a very, very famous organization in Finland. So I'll let you guess which one that was. At the time, I also had an opportunity to move to Dubai to become a vice president of compensation and benefits. And that's when I had to personally make a choice. Do I want to specialize more within compensation and benefits, or do I want to continue to be a generalist? And I chose to remain a generalist just because for me, the hyper specialization was not my wish. But I think that if I had had personally an opportunity to specialize more into international benefits management, I would have probably done a stop in that subspecialization for a few years, because I find it fascinating how it's different across different countries and evolving over time with the law and culture and practice across different industries. So yeah. So that's it for today. I hope that this is helping you to think about what you could do if you want to explore the world of compensation and benefits as a career, and see that even within one specialization, there is a breadth of opportunities which is available. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next week. Bye.